Let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine the entire world's population, all 8 billion of us, as a collection of tiny little bubbles. Today, we're going to climb a ladder right up through them, from the people living on less than $2 a day, all the way to the wealthiest on Earth. So come on, let's take that first step.
But hold on, before we start climbing, I've got a challenge for you. Just 2 simple questions about the world we live in. Now here's the thing. When pollsters asked a bunch of people these same 2 questions, less than 2% got both of them right. So take a quick look, pick your answers, and just kind of hold on to them. We'll circle back in a bit. Okay, our journey up the ladder begins at the very, very bottom.
To really get the global picture, you have to start with the reality of extreme poverty. Our first stop is a country called Burundi, which has the lowest average income per person in the entire world. This is the median daily wage there, $1.80 per day. Just let that sink in for a moment. So, what does a number like that actually mean for a person's daily life? Well, it means you're likely living in a house made of mud bricks. It means you have no electricity, so your only light comes from the same fire you use for cooking. You sleep on a mat made of straw. Your toilet is a hole in the ground. And tragically, it means that 5% of children in your community won't live to see their 5th birthday. That is the lowest rung on the ladder. But you know what? The story of the last few decades has really been about billions of people climbing away from that exact reality. Let's move to our next stop and see what that looks like. Okay, we've just jumped up to Bangladesh, where the median daily income is $4.78. Now that might not sound like a huge leap, but trust me, the change in day-to-day life is absolutely dramatic. With that extra income, houses now have metal roofs. Families actually have beds to sleep on. Water comes from a piped well right there in the community, and homes have a proper toilet and a place to wash your hands. People can afford basic phones, and this is a huge one. Over 99% of households have electricity. And check this out, because this comparison really gives you some powerful perspective. It just shatters that old myth that poor countries are somehow destined to stay poor forever. Think about it. Bangladesh today has better and more widespread electricity access than a developed European country like Portugal did just a generation ago. That's incredible progress. This brings us right back to our first question. Where does the majority of the world's population live? And the answer, which surprises almost everyone, is B, middle-income countries. A staggering 75% of all humanity lives there. This is so important to understand. We are just not living in a world that's simply divided between the rich and the poor anymore. This incredible rise of a global middle class is honestly one of the biggest stories of our time. But it comes with a pretty big complication, a feeling of stagnation, especially if you live in the West. The economist Branko Milanovic captured this perfectly with his famous elephant curve. He points out that while the new middle class, mostly in Asia, saw these huge income gains from globalization, something completely different was happening in the wealthier nations. And this graph he made just illustrates it brilliantly. See that big hump in the middle, the body of the elephant? That's that massive growth for the new global middle. But then look at where the curve dips way down. That's the middle and working class in places like America and Western Europe, who saw their income growth pretty much flatten to 0 over 20 years. And then at the very end, the elephant's trunk shoots straight up. And yep, that's the global top 1%, who captured a huge, huge share of all the growth. So this feeling of being left behind brings us to a really crucial distinction: the gap between what people earn and what they own. This is where we need to separate 2 key ideas: income and wealth. Okay, so income is a flow, right? It's like your paycheck coming in every week or every month. But wealth is a stock. It's the total value of everything you own: your house, your car, your savings, your investments. And when we shift our focus from income to wealth, the picture of inequality gets much, much sharper. I mean, just look at this. When we talk about wealth, not just income, the concentration is extreme. In South Africa, the top 10% of people own 86% of all the nation's wealth. In the United States, it's 71%. This gap inside countries is just vast. And yeah, this trend is pretty much undeniable. For the last quarter century, in almost all of the world's biggest economies, the share of wealth owned by the very top has gone up. This is the reality that people feel in their daily lives, and it's exactly why most people assume that global inequality must be getting worse. So here's the puzzle. We have a rising inequality inside countries, but at the same time, a massive rise of a global middle class. So which force is stronger? This brings us to our final reveal.
Okay, let's go back to that second question I asked you at the start. Given everything we've just seen, the flat wages in the West, the incredible concentration of wealth at the top, has global inequality gone up since the year 2000?
And the answer, which blows most people's minds, is C. It has decreased. So how on earth is this possible? Well, here's the key. That absolutely gargantuan leap made by billions of people moving from low to middle income, that is a much, much bigger deal for global equality than the rising gap within rich countries. The world as a whole is actually becoming a more equal place because poorer countries are starting to catch up to richer ones. And this slide right here, this really puts it all into perspective. Back in 1990, almost 40% of the entire world lived in low-income countries. Now look at the picture today. That number is less than 10%. I mean, this is one of the most incredible transformations in all of human history, and it happened in our lifetimes.
No, this doesn't mean all our problems are solved. Of course not. Rising inequality inside nations is a really serious challenge we have to face. But what it does mean is that the world we imagine in our heads is often very, very different from the world that actually exists.
Most of us, and yeah, I'm including myself here, get these questions wrong because our worldview is often decades out of date. We failed to see one of the greatest stories of human progress while it was happening right in front of us. So the final question I'll leave you with is this. What other core beliefs that we hold about the world might not be true anymore?